What's going on, people? Been a while since I've been back on my channel. I'm gonna be a little more consistent. I'm coming back really because you know, I don't believe in this two-party system. I don't, and the media uh, itself is definitely biased. When I was in school, uh, it was like 20 years ago. It was like 46 in the world. Now it says that the American media is 42nd in the world. I don't know how that can be, being that a lot of the media outlets have been consolidated within the last 20 years and whatnot. Um, but it's got the whole country's two-party system. It's got the whole country divided. We need more political parties, more thought. Um, this is not news anymore. It's just political opinions. And I remember when Ted Turner from Atlanta, I remember when he came out with CNN and headline news. Headline news doesn't even exist anymore in its original form. It was just news. It's just facts, no opinions. This happened at this time, this date, so forth, etc. There was no extra commentary or anything. Now take this article here, or news report here, where you had the governor of Maryland and this CNN reporter. And it's obviously, they're the ones that's playing the game, because these prices, the affordability crisis, was caused, in my opinion, by the rental assistance program under the Biden administration. And so what you have right here, um, it shows you this is um, the rate of inflation. So what a lot of people don't know is once the prices have gone up, they may come down somewhat as inflation comes down, but they'll never return to what it once was unless it's some type of deflationary measure like what happened during the housing crisis. These prices are never, return to once what they once were. So the the red line is all items, and the blue line is shelter. So it shows that around um, the early part of January, or the early part of 2021, that the overall prices started to rise tremendously. The housing uh, shelter, they're using the term shelter, did not rise as drastically. It still was a sharp increase. It didn't reach as high either as the overall items, but what it did, it didn't take a dramatic decrease either. It took more of a slower decrease than the overall items. And as of this doesn't go into right now because we got tariffs and everything else. The overall items were actually going back up as the uh, rate of inflation in the housing market continued to drop. Um, and then as you, it's kind of confirmed by, they did an overall with Zillow. And so here you go with Zillow, they were, the prices were outrageous um, as far as in the rental market versus um, rent of primary residences. They also went up, but not to the degree that other rental properties went up. Now, let's hear what this newscast has to say about this situation.
Through the Affordable Care Act Democratic governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. Thank you so much for being here, Governor, because on just the affordability in and of itself that you heard the president talking about there, do people in your state who are paying more at the grocery store, do they believe that higher grocery prices, higher utility costs are a con job?
Like I say, first of all, Trump didn't cause the higher prices. And I'm not no defender of Trump. I'm just defender of the truth.
The president thinks we're stupid. The president is telling us to believe our lying eyes. I mean, Caitlin, think about it. I mean, this past weekend, I went shopping with my daughter, and we bought fruit, we bought bread, she wanted some whipped cream. I bought some coffee, some basic items, and it was over $100. That is not a con job. That is the fact that we are watching grocery prices continue to explode. It's the fact that people are watching their energy prices have jumped over 20% since the President of the United States went back into that office. It's the fact that we're watching everything from the food that we are eating to the clothes that we are wearing to the fact that the average new car.
Nah, he just lied right there. Energy prices have gone down. Utilities are run by the states. So, however you're paying for your natural gas, your gasoline, those type of things, those industries, the actual prices of those resources have gone down. Now, once it gets to the middleman, per se, the distributor, they are setting their own prices, but the energy prices have gone down. So you have to ask yourself, like in Georgia, we just voted a couple of weeks ago. They had 5 Republicans on the board. I don't think it's good anytime you have all of one party on any particular board. It's not good. You know, when you only have one train of thought, it's not good. And so some of those people have been on there, but one of them was relatively new. But they were replaced by 2 Democrats. So now it's 3 and 2, which is a more favorable thing to the consumer. Which in Georgia we had a public service commissioner, which helped to regulate the prices. When the utility companies want to increase prices, they have to go through this commission in order to get approval. But I just wanted to point that out. It's just like this thing with the beef prices is high. This was because they don't have any competition. During COVID, there were like a lot of cattle, like thousands of heads of cattle that died. I don't know if it was on purpose or what. We should have had the FBI investigate how that many cattle died. But yeah, the beef prices are outrageous. Now this deal with Argentina is supposed to bring in more beef, which in capitalism, which we really don't have anymore. It's just really like a corporatism type of thing. But we don't even really have capitalism anymore. But capitalism, you have to have competition. If you don't have any competition, then you're going to get collusion and monopolies and all of that. The basis of capitalism, without competition, prices are going to rise, which are bad for the consumer.
Our price now is over $50,000, that is not a con job. And so the president knows that his policies, his tariff policies that have made things more expensive, that they are not popular. So what does he then do? He just tries to change the conversation and make people focus on something else and make other people to blame for it. But he campaigned on this. He has not gotten it done. And I think the election results that we saw last week are a direct reflection of the fact that the people are not buying what he is selling.
I think Donald Trump is like a bad ambassador for his own policies because people hate Donald Trump. Okay, but we got to look at what got us into this situation. Okay, the tariffs, of course, man. He's his advisors are proponents of these tariffs. One of the reasons is to bring manufacturing back to America, but right now, the government is making money off of tariffs. Uh, from what I've read, most of the importers are eating the tariffs, or the other countries are sending them in at a reduced price. There probably are some prices that have gone up on some goods. I see a lot of coffee manufacturers. I mean, not manufacturers, but coffee companies, or um, coffee shops are going out of business. So I think coffee's at like an all-time high. But the thing is, we as a country, we can't be dependent upon China for our medication. I think they were making something like 90% of our medication, the rare earths, all this kind of stuff, because of the globalists, started under Reagan. Well, it started before Reagan, but it really amped up under Reagan, in which, all these people were making all these billions of dollars, trillions of dollars probably at this point. They had no patriotic bone in their body. The only thing they were worried about was making money, and all of our jobs have left this country. And, it's being, supplemented by debt. It's not even like real money. It's like we're borrowing money to pacify people so they don't understand what really has happened and what's going on.
Do you worry that Democrats here in DC have lost the momentum from those elections a week ago tonight that your party gained, and as I'm sure you'll acknowledge, had not really had in a year probably. Do you think they lost that momentum by ending this shutdown fight?
Well, I mean, I don't know about election momentum. What I do know is I'm not sure exactly what was accomplished from this deal. When you look at the fact that, this deal says things like, well, we're not going to cut SNAP, or we are going to reimburse federal workers who have been working and not getting paid during this time period. My answer is, oh, you mean follow the law? I'm not sure what exactly was negotiated. I am very clear that I want the federal government reopened. I never wanted it closed in the first place. This has had a more significant impact on the state of Maryland than any other state inside this country. So we need the federal government reopened. And I'm also very clear, though, that a prerequisite for reopening the federal government should not be cutting people off of health care. The fact that I'm still working right now, just today, I was with military veterans.
Now, I was with him all the way till he started talking about the healthcare. Because, first of all, if they were doing that job, we should never, like, this shutting down the government, they should pass their own law to prevent this stuff. Because there's no way people should be having to go to work and worry about paying their bills. I mean, you talking about, like, most credit agencies report after 30 days. So, I don't care. Yeah, these are pretty good jobs. I actually work for the FAA myself. So I was a technician for the air traffic control, So I know, like, you have to go to work. And it's like, an essential job. It's 24/7. The airport never closes. But the thing is, these people are so far out of touch that they think it's some kind of game, saying that did the Democrats fold or whatever. Like, we never should have been in this situation in the first place. It shouldn't be a fold or whatever, because you got people's livelihoods, and and the media should have really had a different narrative. But the goal was to me, you know, these insurance companies, and this is what we're going to get to, these insurance companies have gotten so powerful and they spread so much money around to where people lobby against their sales, because now they want the taxpayer, which is, this is our money. Every time they spend money, this is your money. It would be like if you had $1,000 and then somebody just came up to you and said, I need 400 of that. And you never asked them any questions. Why they need the money, what they're going to use it for, anything. You just give it away. That wouldn't happen. So why do we just accept anything they tell us with our own money? This is our money. This doesn't belong to the Congress. It don't belong to the insurance companies. It don't belong to the media. This is our money, and nobody knows what's going on with it.
I myself am a military veteran, so I was with a bunch of our fellow veterans, knowing that 24,000 veterans are also on SNAP, which I am now having to cover in the state of Maryland because the President of the United States would rather break the law than actually fulfill his SNAP requirement. And so this is the type of thing, and these are the...
Okay, see, now they blaming it on Trump again. Okay, so they had a U.S. District Court judge that ordered the president, which is crazy, that an unelected judge can overrule the president or Congress or any of that. Well, you know, so, but anyway, to use the emergency funds. Now, there are emergency funds in disasters and whatever. It's subjective. You could say this is one, or you could say it isn't. It just depends on what side of the spectrum you're on. I'm not trying to argue either way. But what I will say is that once the judge came out with the order, they appealed the decision to the appellate court saying, okay, we're willing to pay, but where do you want us to get the money from? Because this judge probably has no idea of how the system works or which pile of money is which. They just sent an order saying, oh, pay the money. Now, this is where they Democrats almost messed up. And this is where the justice or the Supreme Court, Justice Jackson, I believe, was probably, paying attention, because this judge almost gave the president the authority to be Congress himself. Because Congress, these are our representatives. We send Congress to, represent us in Washington, and they have to appropriate funds. And then once they appropriate funds, then the president can use those funds, and the executive power can use those funds at his discretion. Now, if they set a precedent where he doesn't have to go through Congress to appropriate funds, then they just gave him even more power. So it's just crazy what's going on. But now it's in the Supreme Court. They're probably gonna let the time run out until they reopen the government. Then it'll be a moot point. So we'll see what happens.
The type of games that Washington plays that is so frustrating for not just chief executives in our states, but for also people who have to live and exist in the type of chaos that's being created right now.
So how would you judge how Democrats handled this shutdown? Do you think they failed or they succeeded?
What I know is that I'm still having to cover down on SNAP for my people. That just last week, I authorized $62 million for SNAP because I was not going to wait for the President of the United States to follow the law. What I know right now is we are still about to watch people's premiums explode, where we are going to watch families in Maryland who are going to watch their premiums jump by $5,000 and $10,000 and $15,000, premiums that were already too high.
Okay, now, this is the main thing I got a problem with. Okay, so I don't know how many people are aware of the Affordable Care Act, how it was originally presented. How it was originally presented was what they call a public option. So at that time, your tax dollars, our tax dollars, we're going to spend about $2 billion to set up a public slash private insurance company. So really was going to be, it's run by the government, but it wasn't going to be using any more money than the $2 billion that it was that was going to set it up. And then it was going to compete against private insurance companies. So you either had the choice of going with the public option or choosing one of these private insurance companies that's in the marketplace as it is. The lobbyists, the insurance companies made them take this public option out. And so unbeknownst to, well, if you was paying attention, like everybody's deductibles have been going up year after year after year after year. But I guess, with these subsidies, given to the insurance companies, which is unheard of in a capitalist society, for public money to be going to private companies unless it's like for defense or something. And these are contracts. So the government needs, with defense, they need planes, ships, tanks, whatever. They put things out for bid or whatever. These insurance companies haven't bidded on anything. We just giving them our money. And once again, this is our money. We're giving them our money, billions of dollars, so that they don't raise the rates. So this thing is messed up. This thing is broken. The Republicans don't have a plan because all of these people, man, they're tied to the insurance company. The Republicans, Democrat, it's all a charade. And we, as the people, man, we got to put pressure on them to say, look, damn these insurance companies. If anything, we need to send the FBI in to see, what's going on. Like, why they, like, some of these insurance companies since Obama passed, they've made over 1,000% in profit. It's crazy. And we're sitting here championing this. Like, this is like something that we should be, championing and like, giving the money to the insurance company is really helping us when the insurance company is the one that's ripping us off.
High in the first place. And so I don't know how to match who wins and loses when it comes to political games. What I do know is this, is that our people are losing. And that is what is so frustrating for me as the chief executive and for so many people who have to live and exist as if we are just numbers or pawns on a larger chessboard that we're not in control of.
Who do you think those people who are going to see higher premiums, should nothing happen, should there not be an agreement on that vote that the Democrats have been promised here, who do you think those people should hold responsible?
Well, I can tell you who I'm hearing as I'm going all around the state of Maryland. When I'm over in Western Maryland and I'm talking to people in Allegheny and Garrett County who have seen how the Trump administration has denied all federal disaster relief to them despite having historic floods because, in the words of the White House, well, support for Maryland is not warranted. I know when I go to Prince George's County and I see how people saw the FBI building was now taken away via a press conference with Donald Trump, where he just made a random statement saying that the FBI building is not going to go to a quote unquote liberal state, despite the fact that this is going to be worth 7,000 jobs, $4 billion of economic activity, and was a 10-year process for the FBI building to go to the state of Maryland. I know when I'm going over to Baltimore County or Howard County and I'm talking to people and they say, well, I don't understand. If the president has the White House, the Senate, and also the House of Representatives, how is it that it's the Democrats' fault? So I think people are pretty clear as to why we are in the shot.
Now, this guy's a pretty good politician. He made a lot of good points. I don't know if any of them are true or not, but, he made some good points about we had already, as taxpayers, we had already started the process of sending the FBI thing to Maryland. So that's a waste of money. So I'm against, if we're trying to save money, whether, okay, so it's a political difference. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm assuming, the FBI falls under the executive branch. So president's got the authority to change that. But if we're looking out for the taxpayer, what sense does that make to spend this money It's supposed to be 10 years, whatever you're saying. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. And, I need do some fundraising so we can get some real reporters and not these fake reporters. And so we can, do some fact checking on all of this stuff. But, it's wrong. I mean, if that's what's happened, it's wrong if, we have money set aside for the disaster relief, and because of some kind of political thing, Maryland isn't getting the disaster relief. But as we saw, there's another lie or misinformation. I call them lies, where they say, or whether Republicans have the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, which that's true. But as we all saw, the Senate has its filibuster. So without 60 votes, which there's only 53 Republican senators, and Rand Paul never votes for a budget that increases the deficit or the debt, so or has a deficit. So he's excluded. So really, they needed 8 Democrats. They got 7 Democrats and an independent. So take it as you may, just a regular old politician.
Shutdown in the first place, about the damage that has happened since Donald Trump has retaken the office. And so people are pretty clear about where they're putting the blame right now for what's happening.
Well, and on the cost of living, obviously we talk about this at a federal level. That's what we're talking about here on Capitol Hill. But on the state level, the Maryland State Comptroller's report that came out found that almost a third of people who have left your state since 2010, the last 15 years, they moved to Florida. Do you believe that Florida is doing something better than Maryland is?
No, because I think the things that we know that have been longstanding challenges within the state of Maryland, that one of the primary challenges has, for example, been things like the cost of housing, where 37% of young Marylanders said they would consider leaving the state of Maryland for one reason: housing costs. And it's the reason that for the past 2.5 years, and I've been very proud of the fact I've been one of the most aggressive governors in the country to address the issue of housing costs, focusing on transit-oriented development, focus on density bonuses, now saying that we are going to incentivize local jurisdictions to work with the state to build more housing and fast, saying I want an inventory of all state-owned land, and saying that all state-owned land should be eligible to create more housing on it, because we've got to increase supply, because the only way you're going to bring down costs when you have population growing and increased demand is you've got to increase supply. And so when I'm looking at things like how aggressive we've been on housing and saying we want to build housing now and fast, the reason is because we want to be able to help bring the prices down to help to be able to support the population growth that we're seeing on the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay, now check this out. Now I would agree with him. It's it's a supply issue. It's a supply issue for a lot of different reasons. Okay, a lot of this is because you have these companies that's coming in. These billion-dollar companies coming in, buying up properties and renting them out. There needs to be some legislation that stop that. Also, we don't invest in the youth anymore. No, these youth from these communities in Maryland and Georgia and everywhere else, they could get in these trades, but we seem to be stuck on getting people from other places other than our own. And the people that's from here, they have to jump through hoops when we don't even know what kind of criminal records or whatever, if any, that these people had in their own country, because they didn't come in the right way. They came in over the border, and they don't have they didn't go through the process, the vetting process in their own country to see if they was qualified to be here in the first place. So, and then these people need somewhere to stay. They're taking up residences that could be used for people here. So I think some of the housing prices will be going down as people leave the country, because these are going to be vacancies. As well as the food, man. If you're spending $6 billion a month on SNAP benefits, all that money goes to the grocery store. That's gonna if it doesn't create a supply issue, it creates an inflationary issue where the government is giving all this money to these grocery stores or whatever, and the prices are inflated. And in the grocery stores, you can see it by how much money they're making through their profits.
And on that front, I mean, obviously that has been a huge issue. This data was from last month that talked about how highly regulated the state is and what that looks like when it comes to residential development. Obviously, that's something you know very well, but this is something that people are struggling with every day. And I wonder what you think they hear when they hear the president talk about this. He talks about a 50-year mortgage as something that he is now floating out there that has been brought to him, because that is such a very real.
From my understanding, I've talked to real estate agents. That product is already out on the market now. You'll be a fool to get a 50-year mortgage. I mean, unless you don't plan on never paying it off. But I mean, that's the mortgage industry. I got an 8-year mortgage myself. I got an 8-year mortgage. So, some people got 15, some people got 30, some people got 10, 20. They got a 50-year product out. It's a mortgage product. The banks, you have to be mad at the banks. It's not like, oh, they're gonna pass a law saying like, oh, everybody gets a 50-year. The product is already in existence.
Concern for people not just in Maryland but everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's also a very real concern when it comes to housing and building housing is the cost of supplies. And that's where you look at things like how his tariffs have been so damaging. Just last week, I was doing a roundtable with small businesses in Prince George's County, and I was meeting with a woman named Julie, who runs Denison's Brewing, which is a brewing company, a family-owned brewing company, who has said that the cost of aluminum, for example, because of the cost of aluminum has been spiking, and because it's only the big boys, the big players, the massive corporations that are able to basically buy all the domestic aluminum, that for our small businesses, they oftentimes have to import foreign aluminum, which means that all of her prices have skyrocketed, and she has not taken a salary to avoid continuing to lay off workers. And so I'm seeing that when it comes to things like our brewers. I'm seeing that with things like our home builders, when you're talking about everything from wood and additional materials to build. And so this is another reason why his tariff policies have not just been incredibly damaging to our long-term economic prospects, but incredibly confusing to our small businesses who actually rely on a measure of stability and transparency that these economic policies from this president are not providing.
Do you think Democrats...
Now, he actually made some good points as far as the building materials and whatnot. I'm in that industry as well, and I have noticed everything is up, and that's primarily because we was getting a lot of stuff from Canada, as far as the wood and things of that nature, aluminum as well. We get some stuff from of course, China and all that crap, the cheap stuff. But hopefully, we can do a deal with Canada. But as far as what they're saying, they're not playing fair ball, and so we got to have a system in which it's fair for both people. But let's see what they got to say.
Are doing enough on that front with the president, either bringing attention to that or talking about it enough? I mean, we heard Senator Angus King, who caucuses with Democrats, yesterday saying that in the shutdowns fight specifically, standing up to the president didn't work. Do you think Democrats in Washington are being effective enough in what you just laid out there?
I think that when I'm speaking to the people of my state, the reason that the people of my state are fighting for us is because we know we fight for them. The reason that they know that I will work with anyone, but I will bow down to no one. And we are always going to make sure that the people of our state are protected, despite the type of assault that we are now seeing from Washington, D.C. I think people need to understand and people need to see that for a lot of these elected officials who are spending their time coming up with reasons why we shouldn't fight, instead of actually coming up with a concerted fight for elected officials who are spending their time continuing to hide behind the fact that if we just don't speak up, that maybe the beatings will stop. They'll realize, and the people will let them know, that your leadership in this moment is not needed nor required. That we have got to be able to stand up for our people, and we've got to make sure that our voices are heard. And that is why I think we're seeing momentum in places like Maryland, that in other places, and that are choosing not to do this, that we're watching them continue to fall behind, because bending the knee is never going to work with this administration.
You're going to see him a lot more. You know, him and Gavin Newsom out of California, I think. But I think this guy's got a good shot at possibly becoming the next Democratic nominee. But like I said, man, all these people are stealing. That's basically what all this stuff is about, man. Every time you see a new program, whatever, man, that's why we $38 trillion in debt. And I'm gonna come up with some more videos, you know, because this one is getting kind of long. But I'm gonna just come up with some more content every day, man, trying to put my spin on it. You know, whether I get 1 view or a billion views, I'm out here putting another voice out here that's knowledgeable about what's going on, that's not gonna lie to the people. So, man, just continue to watch, man, and support the channel.